Hi everybody, Michael Volpat here, co-owner of Big Bottom Market. So happy to be here. It's Earth Day, everybody, and I'm going to feature an organically produced wine today, and it's a small production, so it's so in honor of Earth Day, and I'm really excited to tell you all about it. But first, I want to do a call out, because I love my call outs. So I've met a lot of great people throughout this entire process of sheltering in place and connecting with people online that I haven't talked to in a long time. And one of the people that I've met is a healthcare worker in Omaha, Nebraska. His name is Adam Conley. And when we started chatting and as I got to know him a little bit better, I learned, what a challenge it is to be working in the world of healthcare. At this time, it's challenging. And so for people like Adam, nurses, doctors, anyone in the healthcare field, even in administration, they're doing everything they can to make sure that the world is healthy again. And so on Earth Day, I want to say thank you for every single healthcare worker out there. Adam, thank you so much. It's been wonderful getting to know you. And let's talk about organically produced wines from Hill of Tara. So a little history. The owners, Danny and Katie Fay, and their friend Matt. I met Katie Fay. She works at Lambert Bridge Winery. Lambert Bridge is a partner of Big Bottom Market. We love Lambert Bridge and cannot wait to start working with all of the team from Lambert Bridge again. Katie approached me and said, hey, we have this passion project of ours, and we're turning it in. It's this small production winery, and we make this great Cabernet. And so I'd love for you to feature it. And I was really, really excited about featuring it. And as I got to learn more, I learned that it's just three of them. It's Katie, Danny, and Matt. And they do everything from marketing to farming to harvesting to barreling to bottling. To label development. Oh, I gotta go back. Not label development. The label actually was created by Katie's mom. And it's an image of Hill of Tara. So if you're from Ireland, you may know what Hill of Tara is. I did not know what Hill of Tara was until I started talking to Danny and Katie. Hill of Tara is a historic landmark in Ireland. I think it's about 900 acres. Am I right, Katie? 900 acres? But the Fay family, Danny's family, owned Hill of Tara. They farmed and preserved Hill of Tara from 1928 to 1974. And then they decided it was time to pass it back to the Irish government so that it could be enjoyed by visitors and everyone in Ireland. So a very, very unique company, very unique wine. So the grapes for this 2016 Cabernet Sauvignon come from Moonridge Vineyard, which produces very low yielding, but beautifully developed ripe fruit. So after 20 months of aging in French barrels, it's then transferred to the bottle and aged for another 20 months, so it becomes balanced and more approachable. Now, I poured this glass about 45 minutes ago. They recommend decanting the wine for about 45 minutes before drinking it. And I'm going to talk a little bit about it, but I want to tell a story about right after the first 20 months of aging in a barrel. Danny and Katie were engaged to be married, and they got married the week after. So they bottled this wine a week before their wedding, and they did it successfully. They were insane, but they got it done. So congratulations to you guys. So listen, here's the flavor profile and the nose on this wine. The nose is like classic dark currant, dusted cocoa, vanilla, and raspberries. I mean, it's just got such depth of fruit flavor or fruit nose to it. And then the palate explodes with like chocolate covered cherries and very earthy forest floor. My favorite part is that like mid velvety palate that you get from this wine. It's really absolutely incredible. I just want to make a call to my friend Dan O'Leary. He's Irish, and he gave me a little charm. What do they call those? 4-leaf clover. Hi, Dan. So hilloftarawines.com. Very, very challenging to get on their allocation. I don't think challenging to get on the allocation list, but you can get on. Whether or not you'll get it is another thing. Their next release is March 21st, 2021 on St. Patrick's Day. And I think Katie and Danny told me that in addition to doing a cab, they're going to do a cab Franc. So You'll find more details at hilloftaraWines.com. Next release, like I said, is March 17th. And yes, Hill of Tara Wines, I'm absolutely enjoying this wine. So thank you so much. Okay, let's talk about food. I decided that I wanted to pair this with a risotto that my grandmother used to make. So my grandmother and I were super close. It's my dad's mom. She's Italian. Funny story, I would go and spend the weekends with my grandmother when my parents and my brother and sister would go up to the mountains skiing. She would make me things like this risotto. She also made something called torta frita, which is fried dough, and she'd make a savory version where we just put salt on it and ate it with this risotto. Such a fantastic dish. One day, we decided to go downtown. We took the bus. She wanted to go to Gimbel's to get a new girdle. Yes, a new girdle. And we get on the bus to come home, and we both fall asleep. She gets off at the stop and leaves me on the bus. And thankfully, back in the day, you had the same bus driver driving the same line, and I had been on the bus with her before, and he turns around and sees me and he says, "Hey kid, get off at the next stop," which was right down the street. And I remember getting off the bus and starting to walk up the street towards my grandmother's house, and there she was running toward me, totally freaking out. But I was returned home safely, and I think we probably maybe even ate this dish. So let me talk a little bit about it. So risotto is traditionally made with arborio rice. Arborio rice is a short grain rice. Piedmont, part of Italy, is where it's grown. It's also grown in Missouri, Arkansas, and California here in the United States. Interestingly enough, I learned that today. It's short grain, it's super creamy, and it takes, when you make a risotto dish, it takes about 30 to 45 minutes to make. The nice thing about making this dish with the long grain rice, like Uncle Ben's, for example, is that it doesn't take as long to cook. So the trick is to take your rice and put about, I've been cooking this for quite some time now because I wanted it to be to a really good point before I started talking about the recipe. So what I did was I toasted my rice beforehand. I take about a tablespoon or so of my favorite olive oil, Olive Queen, and I put it on the bottom of the pan. I put my 2 cups of rice in there, which will end up yielding about 5 to 6 cups of rice, and I toast it that on like medium heat for about a few minutes until you get a nice dark golden brown on some of the kernels of rice. And then next to it, I have a pot of hot chicken stock. You can use veggie stock, seafood stock, whatever you do, depending on the kind of risotto that you're making. I made my chicken stock myself, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how I make that after I explain this recipe a little bit more. So what you do is you slowly ladle the stock into the pot. I've been ladling most of it, so there's not a lot left. And you just stir and stir. And one thing, before you start adding the chicken broth, I always do about a half cup to 3/4 a cup of vermouth. It's my mom's little trick. I love the flavor. You can use a dry white wine if you want to, but I love the flavor that this brings to the dish. So let that cook down, and then I start adding my chicken broth, ladle by ladle, and just slowly stirring it. And it takes about 15 to 20 minutes to cook, as opposed to the arborio, which takes about 30 to 45 minutes to cook. Now, while that's happening, I've also cooked off a pound of ground beef, 1.5 cups of chopped onion, 1.5 cups of celery, and 2 cloves of garlic. Now, I use celery. My mom loves to use mushrooms. You can use carrots. You can use whatever, but I want you to get that flavor of onion in there because I think it's really important, as well as the flavor of garlic. Those 2 ingredients, as well as the beef, are important. Now, you can do this with shrimp. You can do this with just about anything you want. It doesn't have to be a meat dish. It can be a vegetarian dish. So once that's all cooked up and your rice is ready, and this rice is just ready now, I'm going to add my meat into there and give this a nice good stir. I'll just use this. Get that all stirred up. This ends up serving about 6 to 8 people as a main dish. I would say 6 people as a main dish. And I finish mine off always with a little bit of chopped parsley. And I love the freshness of lemon on this dish. So I get about a half of a lemon And of course, a few teaspoons of salt, and then freshly ground black pepper. Yeah, perfect. A perfect, delicious dish. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about chicken broth, and then we'll be off, and I'll let you guys go for the day. So I love making my own chicken broth. It's very easy to make. I bought a whole chicken from the market a few weeks ago, and I used it in one of my dishes. I'm forgetting which one. But I pulled all the meat off. I took the carcass. I put the carcass in the freezer. And the carcass was in the freezer along with vegetable scraps. I always save my vegetable scraps because they're great for making stock. You can make veggie stock with vegetable scraps, chicken stock, seafood stock. But I mostly had carrots, celery, and onion, which is called a mirepoix. But then I also had some other things like fennel and some cabbage. So what I did was I put my chicken into a stock pot, so my chicken carcass, all of my veggie scraps. I filled it up to the top with water, so the top of that mixture with water. Then I added probably about 4 or 5 garlic cloves and a bunch of black peppercorns, and I let it simmer for hours. And it's a simmer. It's not a boil, it's a simmer. And then I strain it, and then I let it cook down a little bit more, and the flavor is absolutely incredible. Now, if it doesn't have a lot of chicken flavor, you can always add your own bouillon to it. I love Better Than Bouillon. It's one of my favorite products to use. If you don't have chicken stock, you can use that as a replacement for your chicken stock. I just think it's a fine way to create a soup. We use it at the market. Sometimes we make our own stock, sometimes we don't, but it's a great way to make a soup. So I'll write up about how I do my chicken broth. You'll get the recipe for this delicious Graham's risotto that takes 15 or 20 minutes as opposed to 30 to 45 minutes. And once again, make sure you get on the allocation list for this Hill of Tara wine. It's absolutely delicious. Katie, Matt, Danny, thank you so much for bringing this to my attention. And I hope that everyone has a fabulous, fabulous day. Thank you. Bye-bye.